Shenzhen, China today, talking with Jason Neese, public school teacher with Sea Dragon, and we've also got our on-site field reporter Jordan Henriksen. Jason, just maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what you did before you came to China, and tell us a bit about that.
Okay, sure. Originally I was living in Los Angeles, and I loved teaching English in college, and so I wanted to change. I wanted to be able to travel, but I also wanted to, have the time to experience another country and do all these things. But, most of the time when you take on a big job, you never have the time to really, explore. And so, I didn't want to stick around LA, and I really wanted to travel, but I wanted to have time. So, teaching really fit that criteria.
Good. And so, did you teach anywhere else before you got to China?
I mostly did tutoring and things like that. I did a lot of English tutoring all through college. I worked in all the writing centers and things like that, and writing labs in university. And I really loved working with international students. LA is really such a mixed bag, and so the thing is that I would meet people from China or Korea or Japan or Mexico, and I would always be very excited about where they're from. And I was thinking, well, I'm already teaching an international crowd here. Why don't I actually go and teach internationally? And,
cool.
Yeah.
Neat. How have you found it in regards to meeting people, either foreigners or other expats living in Shenzhen?
Actually, it's a really cool process being an expat, because the fact is that most of the time when you're in your bubble in your home country, you only meet other Americans, or you don't get the chance to meet such a varied crowd. So for example, when you go to an expat bar, or you go to any expat centric place abroad, you're going to meet people from Australia, New Zealand, England, Scotland. In Shenzhen, you meet a lot of Europeans, Germans, French, and so when you meet people, there's no guarantee of where they're from, which is always exciting. It's always kind of one of those things where you're pleasantly surprised to meet someone from a place that you've been interested in for a long time.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic thing about traveling.
So that's a wonderful thing about it. Because even the people that are not from the target location of wherever you're going, even those people are probably not from where you're from.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of an interesting aspect of it. I think that's really fun. You get to meet a lot of cool people that way.
Yeah, I do notice a big difference living in Shenzhen compared to when we lived in Korea. In Korea, it was mostly just ESL teachers in our city or Koreans, and it was one or the other.
Right.
Here, I've hardly even met English teacher, and it blows me away. It's people who are doing all different types of jobs: accountants, pilots, marketing, IT guys.
Yeah. Well, it's a really diverse crowd, and the other cool thing is that it's weird how opportunities kind of flow to you in China differently than they did in Korea. So, for example, in Korea, you're pretty locked in. I mean, you're going to be an English teacher, and most of the people that you meet are going to be English teachers. But out here, because there's so many different industries, there's so many different,
and the visa restrictions are so much more open here.
Yeah, the visa restrictions are more open, or at least there's more options.
Yes.
And so you just get a lot of opportunity in other industries. So I mean, if you don't want to do teaching full time, there's ways to segue into other things once you decide what you want to do. And a lot of these companies will need you for just random stuff. One of my friends came out, and he's this big African American dude, and he's he's got crazy muscle, and some Chinese people saw him and they thought, hey, we want you in our commercial. And now he shoots commercials all the time.
Nice.
But things like that happen to everyone. One of my friends got into boxing promotions. One of my friends got into recruiting. One of my friends got into just name it, anything. They all get into different industries. And so if teaching, if you get out here and you think that teaching is not your thing, well, there's a lot.
Yep.
There's a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
Jordan, any questions?
How do you like the food in China?
Well, it's kind of like saying, how do you like the food in America, right? I mean, you're dealing with a similarly large country. And so, for example, the food in the north is different than the food in the south, or the food in Sichuan is going to be different than the food in Hunan.
Good point.
So I like China in terms of the variety of the food. If you have, and Shenzhen is like the ultimate because no one is from Shenzhen.
And why is that for people who are not aware?
Well, 30 years ago, Shenzhen was like a fishing village, and then almost overnight it became this giant metropolis, and it's basically now the Silicon Valley of China. So they got really heavily into electronics and stuff like this, and all these industries sprung up. It's right next to Hong Kong. They can do a lot of international trade. It's a special economic zone like Shanghai, and so it's easy to do business here.
Yeah.
And
I love how well laid out the city is as a result
Yeah.
of the fact that it is so new. They didn't have to deal with pre-existing infrastructure issues or problems. They just kind of started from scratch.
Right.
So the subway is state of the art. The road system is very well organized. There's trees lining all the different highways and stuff. So I think
Right.
that's really nice. And the green spaces within the city, considering, I think it's easy for a lot of people to think China, concrete, jungle, no green, nothing but smog. And I just don't feel that that's the case in Shenzhen. It's a big
Yeah.
city, but that's not all you see.
Oh, it's gorgeous. There's parks, there's tons of trees. I think they learned their lesson from their older cities like, Beijing and Shanghai and, these places that are just, or Chongqing or one of these places where it's just so heavily populated and, it's so old that they just kind of throw a street up here or a street up there. Whereas, Shenzhen's a very planned city. And again, like I said, because of the international business, there's a lot of international people. And so, that's why the food, I think, is so varied. Like, it's not just Chinese food. You get Chinese food from everywhere because all the migrants from different parts of China come here to work or get involved in the industries. But then, you also have like Indian food, Italian food, every kind of food you could imagine because it's not just, it's not just like Korea where it's just English teaching.
Yeah.
People come here and open businesses all the time, open restaurants all the time.
Good point. When you go out for a lunch or dinner with yourself or with your friends or a girlfriend, what do you generally pay for Chinese meals?
Well, it really varies based on
Yep.
the cuisine.
Yeah.
You could go and you could pay like, you could pay 18 RMB, which I guess would be the equivalent of like $3,
Yep.
American dollars, and you could get a pretty filling, Chinese meal, especially from Muslim Chinese restaurants. Which sounds strange. I never even knew that existed before I came to China. But there are all these little Muslim Chinese spots with lots of good lamb dishes and things like this, and it costs about $3 a dish. Or you could go to Hot Pot and spend like 20 US very easily, 20 or 30.
Yeah.
But you're gonna get an amazing meal, and that's for 2 people or 3 people.
Yeah.
It'll be like 20 or $30.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's gonna be an incredible meal.
Yeah.
You could spend even more if you want, but most people don't. And for
Yeah.
international food, I would say it's generally comparable to America.
That's what I think as well.
Yeah, if you're gonna go to an international food place, you're gonna pay $10 or something for a meal, which I think is comparable to back home.
No tax and no tip here on
No tax and no
on top
tip,
of the price,
yeah.
so I find that is a really nice advantage.
I love
especially
that.
for me as a family of 4.
Yeah.
You start adding a couple of soft drinks and tax and tip, and
Right.
it really dings me.
Yeah. I love that there's no tipping in Asia. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that sounds terrible, but I just think it's one of the best parts of dining out here. You don't have to worry about it. Everything, even when you go to the stores, all the prices are what you pay.
Yeah.
So, you don't have to worry about like going and then like, you see like 10% more tacked on at the end of your receipt.
Yeah.
You just don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that aspect.
Speaking of cost of living, do you mind giving us a little bit of information on whether or not you're able to live comfortably on your teaching salary here? Maybe how it compares to your just general cost of living, your apartment, your daily expenses?
Yeah, sure. I would say Shenzhen is on the expensive side in terms of the apartments compared to, other parts of Asia where, you could spend 800 RMB and get a really nice apartment in, a smaller city or something. But in Shenzhen, you're going to spend probably about 400, 500 bucks on your apartment.
How many RMB? Because we'll have people from different countries.
RMB would be about what, 2,500 to 3,500, I would say you're going to find like a studio or one bedroom somewhere around there. That's probably if you're in the main part of the city. If you're in Futian, if you're on the outskirts, then it's going to be a lot less.
It'll be lower. Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
Yeah, but you do get a housing allowance, and that should cover the vast majority of it, if not the whole thing, and if not more. So, for example, my apartment is like 2,300. And my housing allowance is 3,000. So, I'll make 700 on top of the housing allowance. So I'll get to pocket that money.
Yep.
So that's nice. And as far as the salary is concerned, I mean, it really, it just depends on what you do. I find that most people probably save about at least $500 a month, and probably a lot more in most cases.
Which is probably about $500 a month more than what your friends in the States are saving every month.
Well,
I know for us, when we live in Canada, we don't seem to be saving on the same basis as when we live in Asia.
Well, the thing is again, like the cost of living is low, especially in terms of the food. And
what about your bills?
And my bills are super cheap. I would say, they're less than half than what I paid in Korea, even, which was shocking.
Yeah.
You can run the AC all the time, and you're still not going to pay like a crazy amount of money. You're going to pay like $60 or $70, at the most. Or, 400 RMB or whatever you want to say. But in any case, you're not going to pay very much, even if you're running the AC all the time, even if you're leaving your lights on and doing all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the bills are low. The food is cheap. Everything is
transportation.
Really
do you walk to school? Are you within walking distance?
I'm not within walking distance. I take the subway. But that's not a really huge consideration for me. Like. The subway here is really efficient. My school is right next to the subway stop. It takes me maybe 35, 40 minutes to get here. But again, like my job is so good that I don't really worry about it that much.
Yeah.
So
good.
Yeah.
Would you recommend teaching and living in China to your friends?
Again, this really depends on certain things. So, for example, I would definitely recommend teaching, for people that are interested in doing this, like traveling. If people are interested in trying something new and getting out of the country for a while, or I think it would be very good for people that want to have an adventure or an experience that they can kind of hold on to. Forever. I mean, that's something that we don't always get the opportunity to do in our lives, and so I recommend that aspect of it for sure. On the other hand, I mean, you just have to ask yourself if you're the kind of person that can be away from your family for a year. If you can't, then it's not going to work.
Yep.
If you can, then it's going to work.
And adapt to arriving in a new country and new city. And
can you deal with adapting to the language barrier, which frankly, it's not that big a deal, but it's there.
Yeah.
And can you adapt to the work environment here? Can you understand that the way they operate is sometimes different than what they would do in your country? I mean, if you're going to come here and just compare everything to America all the time, or Canada, or wherever you're from, then you're not going to be happy. You're going to have to just accept what it is.
Yep.
And then if you can do that, then you'll be happy. You'll be fine.
Yep.
And I think most people can.
Yep.
Most people can. I think 3 months in, they usually have a little bit of trouble at first, and then after they adjust, then everything's great. Then they're kind of used to things. They can get everything. They have the routine. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
But your first month, you might.
Yeah, it takes a little bit. Even for us, and we had traveled and lived abroad, it was still a few things that catch you off guard, and you need to remember to roll with it and look at the good side of things.
Yeah.
Do you consider your school and job to be reliable?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's the best job I've ever had, I think. My co-teachers are all very supportive and very nice. I don't know if that's, like, look, not everybody gets the same situation, but definitely mine is great. I think that they help me when I ask. My hours are consistent. Everything is
paid on time. No contract worries.
Yeah, no contract issues. Got all my bonuses.
What about your working hours here compared to when you taught in Korea?
Oh gosh, that's night and day. Well, you know, for example, you know, in Korea I taught at the Hagwon, and you know, my first job I taught maybe 30 classes a week, something like this. And then my second job I taught 47 a week, which was just a grind. And then I came to China because of that.
Yeah.
And I teach 15 classes a week now, and I don't have office hours. So when I'm done with my classes, I'm done.
How long is each class?
Each class is about 35 to 45 minutes, 35 to 40 minutes really. And you know, so for example, like Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, I get done by lunchtime. I'm done. I get to go home. You know.
Nice.
So it can be a great job.
Is that what you want for a job when you're older, Jordan? Monday, Wednesday, Friday, done by noon?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah. Good.
Is it easy to find like a good gym in China?
No, it's not. It's not easy to find, like, you know, like a Bally's or a, you know, a 24-hour fitness or something like that. Like, you're not going to find a giant gym like that unless you're going to pay a lot of money.
Okay.
You're going to find serviceable gyms for about 2,500 to 3,000. I'd say is probably pretty average. You're going to find for like a, you know, an okay gym. You know, you're gonna get something. You know, I'll put it that way. Like, you know, you're gonna find the equipment that you need. You're gonna, you know, you'll find something that you like to do that'll keep you physically active.
But the equipment won't be as modern. Is that kind of what you're saying, or just the gym sort of feel itself?
You know, the gym feel itself is very different.
Okay.
So, for example, you know, in America, it's kind of part of our culture now. You know, where I think most people have gym memberships. It kind of go. It's, you know, it can be a semi-social thing. It can also be like, you know, both girls and guys go in equal measure.
Yep.
And in China, it's mostly guys.
Okay. Lots of trainers here. I
There
kind of
are
get the
trainers.
feel that it's a lot of trainers here.
There are a lot of trainers, you know, in of varying quality,
Yeah.
and more so than in the U.S. There's not as much standardization and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
There's more steroids in China.
Okay. Interesting.
You know, but in any case, you know, I think that the gym culture here isn't as developed as it is back home. But that, you know, if you've been working out before and you kind of know what you're doing, you're going to find a place that'll suit you.
Yep.
Like, it's not going to be impossible to find.
Yep.
And it'll be close to your house.
And do they have classes like yoga classes or
Yeah,
fitness
they-
classes?
yeah,
Is that
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
common?
Yeah,
Yep.
sure. Yeah. You know, again, gym to gym, it'll vary.
Mm-hmm.
You know, certainly out in the States, it probably won't have something like that.
Yep.
But most of the time, like where most of the teachers from Sea Dragon live, like in Futian or whatever, there's gyms all over the place that
Good.
have stuff to do.
Yep.
So I don't think anyone will really have to worry about that aspect of it. You know, but yeah, it's not going to be a giant facility like a 24-hour fitness or a Bally's or a
Yep.
LA Fitness or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah.